Shall we begin?
You are now listening to an altogether less fashionable variety of soccer podcast. Broadcasting live from the capital city of Columbus, Ohio. Welcome to
ACES Radio.
I got the new wings with the Zima flavor sauce.
I've given this no thought whatsoever.
Hashtag probably riding cock.
They're in your face. They're a little different. I think it's super cool. I love them. Jamie, ignorant slut.
Hold on to your butts.
Now, here are your hosts.
Not Morgan Hughes. Rest.
John Zidar. And Darby Snarpus.
No! Greetings, shitlords, edgelords, and bezlords. If you are listening to this, which you probably should be if you're not, how dare you, you are tuned in to another episode of ACES Radio. Episode, 153? 154? Let's go with 153, because numbers and whatnot. It's been a couple of weeks now since the crew last played, but we're getting into this phase one of the Brave New World, and we're here to talk about it. Before we get into the soccer side of things, though, Brent Miller, how are you doing out there in Methland?
Doing great, Drabs. I was just at the pool for about an hour all by myself. Had it to myself and nobody else out there, so feeling pretty good tonight.
Oh, the pool of contagion. You were spending time out there, no families of 50 people in there just like soaking up all the chlorine.
Yep, not this time.
Did you were you watching the Blue Jackets game earlier today at your local B-dubs?
No, I was still at work at that point, unfortunately.
You are such a
maybe
casual.
Fortunately.
Casual fuckboy. Oh my god, you hate to see it. Well, so then if you're not watching Blue Jackets games and you're not contracting diseases from the locals, what have you been up to in the past couple of weeks?
That's pretty much it. Just those two things.
And making fat stacks of cash.
Well, Drabs, it's a little tacky to talk about money. Let's not do that.
Oh, incidentally, I need to get your address. All of my masks are in desperate need of cleaning. I've just been wearing these cloth masks nonstop. I've not been washing them. Occasionally I blow my nose into them, and I could use somebody to lick them clean. So if you would be so kind as to give me your address, I will send all of them out to you tomorrow. And with the way the Postal Service is working these days, they should get to you by October, I believe.
All right, well, if you got some N95s, then I could help you. And what you need to do to get signed up to be a customer of the project is email team@savethecrew.com, and they'll get you set up.
I will reply to my own email with a quickness. You know this. All right. So since Brent has absolutely nothing going on, I'm going to turn to a voice that some of you may recognize from the long ago, from the before time. Everybody's favorite, number one, wettest of all boys, the amateur artist himself, John Zidar, everybody.
Hey, Darby, how's it going? I see nothing has changed in regards to Bront.
Yeah, he's, I'm trying to do the heavy lifting here in this show. I'm like giving him every opportunity, and he says
First
three
of all,
words.
Drabs,
and he
that is
himself.
completely false. You know very well that I have been carrying you for the last however many episodes, and I'm very grateful to have John back so that I don't have to do that anymore.
I also am glad that you don't have to even pretend anymore. How you doing, John?
It's good. It's good. I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there. I can't claim that I have anything else going on more so than Brent, because as you know, the pandemic is of course still happening. But yeah, trying to stay busy where I can and how I can, doing things, living life. Still not sick, so that's great. I got very little complaints given the state of the world.
That's good. I hear that your former raccoon roommate has moved in with Molly Thomas, so that's very exciting.
That is the word on the street, yeah. I offered to bring the cage over and help her in capturing that little rascal again, but she's not taking me up on that offer, so hopefully she's found a way to dispose of him herself.
John was trying to bring Storm back to his house.
No, Brent. I was not going to bring him back.
I mean, in fact, it sounds like the exact opposite of that. I think Molly has like a whole raccoon family, so definitely could have been worse, as it turns out.
Yikes! Yeah, what an absolute dream. I remember when I was little, my dad had to go over to our neighbor's house and help their dad because a family of raccoons had nested in their attic, and at one point, like, I don't know if it was just due to the dampness from like their constant urination or what, but the drywall in the ceiling gave way and the full nest of babies and everything fell into the bathroom.
Wow.
Yeah.
A roof that's so soaked with urine that it crumbles apart, like that's pretty much your worst case scenario.
Pretty disgusting. Yeah. They weren't very cute, but yeah, awful situation. Thankfully no one was like on the toilet or anything when that happened. Can you imagine?
I know. At least they were peeing above the bathroom, so they were in the right part of the house to be doing that. They just chose the wrong level.
They were technically aiming for the toilet. They just couldn't get through the drywall.
Oh, that is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, life goes on here at the Darston household. We're watching a lot of birds these days.
Whoa. We're not calling you guys Darston. We're calling you Krabby.
Well, that is a little more accurate in terms of, the attitude that I bring to the household. So I can respect that.
But seriously, how you guys doing over there?
Just like hanging out at home. Like I said, watching some birds. We got a couple of bird feeders now just for some, something to do. We did our screening of Wet Hot American Summer on the side of the garage this weekend. Which was nice. A lot of fun. Yeah.
Wet and hot are exactly the conditions COVID prefers. Thank you for screening that.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a summertime movie, so it fit all the requirements there. We've been trying out some new dishes recently. Made some harissa chicken. Tonight we made chicken makhani. Which
you're gonna pretend like it's fancy when it's really just butter chicken.
It's butter chicken. I'm trying to embrace the non-Americanized name for it.
Yeah, butter chicken is super easy to make and super fucking delicious. So had you ever made it before?
No, we've not ever made it. It's one of those things where I found a recipe probably a couple of years ago and just never got around to doing it. And we've gotten so bored with our normal rotation of meals. It's like, okay, let's spread out some. And yeah, it was fantastic. I was nice. Really pleased with it.
Well, I can't imagine that butter chicken recipes vary too drastically, but the one I've used and that I really enjoy is from Maddie Matheson. So if you ever want to switch it up and are looking for a different one, I highly recommend that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one was from the Washington Post, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd never really done like fresh ginger before, and yeah, that was fantastic. So
it makes a big difference, but it's a bitch to peel.
It actually wasn't too bad for me. Just kind of used the side of a spoon to peel it off, and that worked pretty well. It was something I saw online as a tip. So.
Yeah. I always hated when I worked at the Asian restaurant many years. God, actually like a decade ago now. Doesn't feel like that long, but. I always hated being the one that got stuck with peeling the garlic. I guess it's probably not as big of a deal when you're peeling just the garlic for one recipe as opposed to like 50 pounds of it for a few days of an Asian restaurant.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah, I can deal with a little garlic and a little ginger without too much trouble.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, it was good. And I was actually thinking like that the base chicken, like just the tandoori chicken, that would be a good tailgate thing to do at some point.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of marinate that and then throw it on the grill. If we ever have a tailgate again, which we probably won't, but...
Yeah, at this rate, I don't think that's going to necessarily be happening, but...
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a great way to transition into talking about actual soccers. So, I know. God, these past few weeks I've been practicing. I've just been sitting up here on the second floor, just working on my transitions, trying to make them flow, trying to be natural. It's really paying off.
Mission accomplished.
So we're now at the stage. The MLS is back, tournament is over, and I guess I don't know. I think Portland won or whatever. Who cares? Not me. The Crew came out basically top of the table in MLS thanks to those group stage games that actually count as regular season. They have 13 points and are 4-0-1 in the regular season, which puts them top of the East and above anyone in the West. Just so you know, the Crew have only had 2 regular season losses in the past 365 days. And they have actually not lost at home at all in the past 365 days. The last time they lost at home was July 6th of 2019. Now, that, of course, has nothing to do with the global pandemic. The team is just that amazing. They've also had about 3 weeks at this point without any competition, so time to get home, relax, see their families, hopefully rest up, get some injuries taken care of. And tomorrow they will be beginning what MLS is calling Phase 1, where all of the teams are going to be playing 6 games within their conference that are pretty local in nature. So 3 home and 3 away with a very compact schedule. Those 6 games are basically coming over about a 3-week time period. So the game Thursday, it has been announced there will be no fans in attendance. They apparently looked at what FC Dallas tried to do, and they said, "Oh, hell no," which I think is the right choice. Much to everybody's delight, they're going to be pumping in fake crowd noise, which you'll be able to hear on the broadcast. Good.
How is that? Okay, so that's not a good... I have successfully not watched a single soccer game since our away game to Seattle. So
right.
I have seen 0 professional soccer, or really actually 0 any professional sports during the pandemic. So I have not experienced the existent games with crowd noise or without. So you prefer, it sounds like you prefer it without, Darby?
Yeah, so I saw
or
games...
is it how the MLS does it that you specifically hate?
I have watched a little bit of international soccer that's had the fake noise, and the thing is you can tell it's fake. I think the problem with the MLS broadcast for me in particular is that they were using generic fake crowd noise. So it wasn't team specific. I mean, they would, sort of cheer when good things were happening on either end. But they'd have like fan chants that were just, for example, the Ole.
Just like generic, could be for any soccer team, any soccer game.
Yes, and when that's all that you're getting, it comes across as, oh yeah, this is clearly fake.
Yeah.
Whereas conversely, the ones without crowd noise, you could hear the players talking to each other. You could hear the coaches yelling from the sidelines. And I thought it kind of gave a cool perspective on the communication that goes on during the game, and sort of what coaches and players are looking for.
Yeah, I think that sounds like it'd be much more interesting and enjoyable. And did I see somewhere, I don't remember if this was MLS or who this was, but I swear I saw somewhere that they were going to be cutting to the referee, like a referee cam and the referee team audio during VAR reviews coming up, which sounds super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they've already started that or if they're going to. But yeah, that's another one of those insight into the mechanics, and that's a thing that I would hope stays even after all of this is over, because that in a broadcast, that's an important thing for fans to be aware of, like what the thought process is in them deciding calls.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's I'm just real quick trying to think of something that like a aspect of watching from home that you can't get from watching in the stadium, and that feels like that is one of the maybe the only thing that where like the at home broadcast is going to have like the leg up as opposed to being there in person, because I assume they're not going to like broadcast that kind of audio over like in stadium speakers or whatever, but if you're watching from home, you would certainly get that piped in.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'd do it live. But yeah, that and basically instant replays are about the only other thing you can consistently get at home.
Right. Yeah, and even that, you still get some of it on the scoreboard. I just think it's interesting that there's now like going to be a feature that is like, you know, a positive for watching from home.
Yeah. So, Brent, what are your feelings about the sort of the new audio things that have been going on in games and will be going on?
As far as the miking up the ref for VAR, I think it was MLS that did it during the MLS is Back tournament. But either way, I know I've seen it used once or twice already, and it was actually pretty cool to hear them talking through and the guy in the booth pointing out things to the ref on the field. To hear those explanations was really good. So I agree that is something that should stick around whenever they get back to normal soccer. But as far as the fake crowd noise, I don't know. I'm not super bothered by it like some people are, but I definitely think it was cooler hearing the players yelling at each other and hearing the goalies directing people and hearing Caleb Porter yell at the guys.
Yeah, it's, you know, for me, the fake noise is just more distracting because I'm aware of its fakeness. I'm not necessarily opposed in theory, but just, I don't know. I don't think it brings anything to the game, and I think hearing players and refs and coaches does actually add something to the broadcast.
Yeah, having never heard it, my first inclination is that I'm not going to particularly enjoy the fake crowd noise. So I did look at like all of the broadcast options for these upcoming games, and I think I am probably anxiously anticipating watching it with the audio muted and then maybe like the door and call from the radio on in the background.
Oh, yeah, that would work. I know with MLS is Back, it was sort of a weird setup where if you were watching online or through the app, you didn't get the crowd noise, but if you were watching television broadcasts, you do. Although I guess with, you know, in regular season, I think everything is going to be television. I don't think there's going to be streaming opportunities there, so I'm not sure that that'll relate.
So here's a thought I just had, and maybe this would change your mind about it, Darby, and I don't know if this is even something that they're capable of doing, but given that now teams are going to be playing in the different markets, I assume that like TV broadcasts is going to be more based around like those local partnerships. Do you think that they will do this? And if they do, would you be more interested if they had specific crowd noise for each broadcast? Like, in this upcoming game against Chicago, the Chicago broadcast could have its own background crowd noise that would react appropriately to as Chicago fans would, and the Crew broadcast would have the same thing, but for Crew fans, so cheering our goals, things like that. Would that make it more interesting to you?
I think it would, especially, again, if they can bring in team-specific chants, if they can pull audio from old games and get those things that not every team does. I think somebody in charge of the audio could do probably a pretty decent job with that and at least make it less obtrusive or less obviously fake.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now that if somebody on the audio can figure out a way to get some piss on the fire chants during the Chicago game, I would be much more interested.
Yeah. They're like, wait, can we get the CREW chant, but one that doesn't say fuck pre-court? How far back do we have to go to get that? I
don't know if you'll ever find a version of that without an F word in it. Even before it was pre-court, it was fuck whoever we were playing.
Well, yeah.
Stuff like, so.
Yeah.
Have to do some fancy editing.
Yep. Yeah, and so I guess, the other thing is some teams are going to be having fans at the game. Like I mentioned, Dallas is having them. Although I think Keith Noss pulled up the box score from the second Dallas Nashville game, and the announced attendance was 222 people. I don't know if that's a typo or what, but
well, can we talk about how is one of the teams that's going to allow fans also one of the teams that had to completely remove itself from a tournament because it had so many positive cases? Like, what? How does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think that was a really surprising thing because those should be the teams that are the most careful. And I think what's actually happening is cities that are more responsible in their overall responses have tended to say, we're just not going to do fans. I know, who was it? There were a couple of teams that basically said, I think Red Bull said they were going to have no fans in phase one. Or no, maybe it was NYCFC. And I think Cincinnati might have also, where they just preemptively said, all 6 of these games all 3 of our home games, we're already not going to have fans. Whereas the Crew have only said that they won't have fans for the game on Thursday, and then they're going to keep evaluating. And given that Governor DeWine has basically opened up the state for contact sports, especially at the high school level, I think that's going to wind up being more of a conversation than I would necessarily prefer.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I feel like a good majority of Crew fans, this isn't necessarily true for all Ohio Columbus sports fans, but Crew fans, I feel like tend to lean pretty like liberal on this, and we all know that that's the kind of people that are following the rules here and taking this seriously and stuff. So I'd be curious, even if they do allow fans, if you'd have a situation like that Dallas number you're saying, where like even if they're saying we're opening it to 5,000, if you have like maybe a couple hundred even show up, because I know I'm not going to be going to games, and I know a majority of my friends are not going to be going to games. So, and I'm about as we're as plugged in as you can get to the Crew community, and we're friends with most of what people would consider the hardcore fans. So if those people aren't going to be going to games, like who do they think is going to show up?
Yes, and we did do a completely non-scientific Twitter poll from the ACES radio account back it was like about 10 days ago, asking if tomorrow's match were open at 25% capacity, would people go? And 74% of respondents said they would not. That's out of 200 votes. Again, completely not scientific, but I do think that the people who are watching and responding to an ACES radio poll are probably the more connected and dedicated Crew fans. So I think that does reflect on the majority of people not yet being comfortable with going to games.
Yeah.
And I think, Brent, I think we talked about this last time. You're kind of, was there a situation where you felt comfortable, or are you a hard no person?
I don't know that I would say hard no, but I mean, it would be extremely unlikely that I would go. I mean, maybe if I thought that there were only going to be 200 people there, like the Dallas game, then yeah, I'll go and stay, 500 feet away from everybody else. But
if you had your own entire section, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, it would be very unlikely that I would be going to a game right now, especially since the reason that I go to games is to be with my friends watching the sport. And if I can't sit with my friends to watch the sport, then it's extremely less appealing for me to be there.
Yeah, I think that's like a great point that honestly I hadn't even considered, but now that Brent says it, it's such a no-brainer. Like, so much of the reason that we all are so intertwined in this with the community and love with the team and stuff is yeah, we like the sport, but we also love and look forward to those social interactions. And if that's all removed from it, what's kind of the point? I can watch the soccer game by myself at home.
Yeah, for sure. And also the team has specified that not only will there not be fans at the game, the parking lot is not open because they don't want people going and tailgating. I'm completely on board. It's very much a social event for me. I basically haven't hugged anybody that I don't live with for what, five months now?
A terrifyingly long amount of time.
Right. Like to the point that it you sort of have that I just crave physical contact with other human beings.
Yeah.
And yeah, you
All right,
go to a
calm it
game.
down, Darby. Calm it down. It's starting to sound a little creepy.
I'm just glad he said craving physical contact with human beings and not
Oh,
horses.
God damn it. No, but like, if you're to get I wouldn't feel comfortable high-fiving somebody after a goal or like jumping and hugging them or yelling in their face and spreading my germs and like all of those stupid things you do when you're at a game. Like those are some of the best parts.
Well, and that's like, I don't know what, how necessarily to describe it, but you actually have a better opportunity of enjoying the game with some of those people if you do it at home, be it in a backyard wash party or something like that, or like I know like Shrek's been projecting things on his porch for people to sit in that parking lot and watch. Like you're not going to be able to get that close or interact that well with fans if you were going to the game. So it almost incentivizes you to stay home so you can have some semblance of that social event.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get a sample of it if you have especially if you have a good outdoor option, where maybe you can get 8 or 10 people in one space where you can be a safe distance apart and cheer and have conversations without all the other stuff. Absolutely. But yeah, so this is where we are. So we've got 6 games coming up before MLS takes another pause and goes into this phase 2 thing, which will be the remainder. I think there's supposed to be a total of 18 games, so that'd be another dozen after this. But of course, no information has come out about that because MLS doesn't tell fans fucking anything. But yeah,
I'm not sure what the incentive is for holding back that info. Like, are they waiting to see if maybe they'll have to cancel like the rest of the season? Like, I don't know what they're worried. What are they worried about? I don't know. I don't get it.
I have to think that's a part of it, that they're just okay. Like, this is the MLS's back was the first baby step, and this is now the second baby step. And if they're trying to be responsible, then they can sort of pause and figure out, okay, is it safe to travel? Because those other 12 games that would be coming up, I think, if I recall correctly, I think they're all supposed to be in conference. So you're traveling less, but you're still traveling a non-zero amount. If you think like...
Yeah, I mean, America, even if you're only going to half of it, is still huge.
Right. Our second shortest road trip at this point is still a 6-hour drive. So you're going to be flying to most places. And I think they're really going to be leaning heavily on the charter flights to help deal with that. But, I mean, yeah, it's who knows what things are going to look like in 3 weeks. It might be better or it might be worse.
Well, I'm definitely really interested to see how they continue to, like, release the info and navigate this whole situation, because it definitely is still something that's very, like, prevalent and not seeming to go away anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, and they need to be aware of, I think the reevaluation period is also important for looking at the safety of the players and staff. Whether or not you have people in the stands, you have to make sure that your commodity, and players are a commodity to the league, isn't in jeopardy from what you're doing. So, if it turns out that this phase 2 winds up having teams having cases spring up again, then they might have to have a very different conversation.
Yeah. I'll be very surprised if there aren't any additional cases. I just don't see how they can have no cases moving forward now, with all of the teams back in their home cities, all their players back on at their houses, doing, whatever they normally do family-wise. People are still going to be now having greater exposure than they were when they were in the bubble, which we knew there were cases going into the bubble, which were obviously from when they were living their lives before the bubble, which is now the kind of life they're going back to living. So I'm really curious what's going to happen, especially if you have situations like you had with Dallas and Nashville, where there are so many infected players that they can't play a game. Like, at what point, how do you navigate that if another team or two has to pull out of this phase of things? I think it's a lot harder to rebalance from this point on than it was when they were accommodating for those teams pulling out of that mostly meaningless tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And all it really takes is one team having a significant fuck up to send the whole house of cards tumbling. Because as soon as you have one team who can maybe spread it to another team during a game, and then those two teams can no longer play for the next couple of weeks while they get healthy, your schedule instantly falls apart.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the schedule coming up here, we've got 3 games in the span of 9 days against 3 different teams and in 3 different cities and states. That is a shorter time span than we know the like hibernation period of this virus is inside of someone. So there could be someone on the crew literally right this very moment who has COVID and won't find out until after they play Chicago or something potentially. And at that point, like, who knows, like, how fast it spreads. But
to be fair, John, they could also get the Governor DeWine patented false positive fast test, which would bring its own source of issues then.
Yeah. Do we know what the testing procedures are moving forward? Like, are guys getting tested daily, or do we know any of that information?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. A good thing I have a thing right here in front of me. As of August 11th, there was an update. Why don't you and Brent talk about things, and I'll see what it says here.
Bront, when are you coming back to the great state of Ohio?
Probably in September for about 5 days, and then I'll be heading back to Oklahoma.
So do you just live in Oklahoma now full time? Are you going to become an Oklahoman boy? Is there an Oklahoma soccer team?
Well, first of all, John, they call us Okies.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
And yeah. Secondly, no, I don't think there is a soccer team except for, like, maybe if you want to count the University of Oklahoma. Or I'm not even sure if they have one, to be honest.
There are no, like, USL or anything like that in Oklahoma?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Interesting. Okay. And do you have a time frame that you're going to be there, or is it just until they don't need you anymore?
Well, for right now, the contract with the feds ends at the end of September, but they're working on a contract extension through the end of the calendar year. And it's one of those things, kind of like the situation with the sale of the crew, where in October they announced that it wasn't done, but they had agreed to it, but they were still working on the paperwork. It's kind of like that.
Lovely.
It's done deal for the most part. They just got to, like, cross the T's, dot the I's on the paperwork.
Nice. Sounds fun. Oh, goodness.
Well, I don't see anything.
Of course
what
not.
I found
Why would they have announced that?
Yeah, it was like, here's the final round of testing for the MLS's back tournament. In fact, I think MLS at one point had, like, a coronavirus tab on their website, and it's just fucking gone now. So, yeah, they're going with everything is fine. Don't worry about it.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see moving forward what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly I just hope that, all the, players stay safe, their families stay safe, and that fans make the smart and safe choices for themselves if the option is made to them. But
yeah.
I did appreciate, I don't know if you guys read the email from the crew the other day, but I did appreciate the fact that they very explicitly said that whether or not you choose to attend games, if given the option, won't affect your tenure as a season ticket holder or your ability to get seats for next year.
Yes. Yeah. So actually, we can talk about that real quick. From what I saw from the email, essentially the way it's going to work for season ticket holders is you just get like your credit is being pushed towards next season, and at such time as it is possible to go to games, they'll just be selling tickets then. So it's like your money for your season tickets is a wash. So you get the credit for it for next season in the new stadium. But if you want to come to games, then you essentially just buy tickets then. So all your existing tickets are invalid, your parking passes are invalid. You would then just, I guess go on the website and buy single match tickets. I don't know if they'll have any package or anything, but I have a feeling there won't be enough games to really have a package to speak of. And I do appreciate that, like you said, Brent. So there's no pressure on current season ticket holders to attend to games because they're not going to hold it against you for your priority. They're not going to be like, oh, you're going to lose your money if you don't choose to come to games. That does feel like the right move for the crew to make.
Yeah, I mean, unlike John's sporting men.
What?
Oh, yeah, it was
something contrary, or
did anything more come out of that survey? Is that what you're talking about?
I haven't seen anything new, but it was just that survey that they did trying to find out about interest in attending games, and they told people that if they marked that they wouldn't attend games, if given the option this year, that they would lose their place as a season ticket holder.
What? So, like, they wouldn't get any priority towards tickets for next year?
Correct.
Wow, that's extra shitty.
Yeah, I think what I remember seeing was like, basically, if you said I'm not comfortable with going to games, and they were like, well, then if you say that, you won't even have a chance at attending any games this season, even if if they were
if COVID is cured tomorrow,
exactly,
you can get fucked.
Yeah, it was like it's now or never, and so it artificially skews your survey for one thing, because then you're like, oh look, 100% of people said they're comfortable coming to games. Well, yeah, dummy, because they thought they were going to lose their shot at having tickets if not. But yeah, so that was the thing, and maybe not the best thing. Do better, Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, do better.
Do better.
God, you're embarrassing me.
Damn it is. Okay, so do you guys want to talk about the new lads on the team now? Because there are new signings for the crew.
I would love for you to tell me about them, Darby.
Okay. Well, so we had the opening of a transfer window here. I think it started just a couple days ago. And the crew have already picked up 3 players, all from within MLS. The first one was Ima Boateng, who was most recently playing with DC United. That was a straight-up trade for Axel Soberg. Yeah, that guy. The big, tall guy, center back, who never played for us. Boateng, many of you may remember, he played for LA before he was in DC. Midfielder from Ghana. He's a big-time speed guy. Jossie, in fact, said he's been trying to get Boateng to come to Columbus for a while now. Says he's one of the fastest guys he's ever seen on the field. So it sounds like this is probably a depth signing, from what Porter basically indicated. All 3 are depth and competition signings, no necessarily instant starters. So this is a guy kind of in the mold of Diaz or Etienne, as opposed to the Pedro Santos and Yunus Mokhtar type of approach to the more direct, fast guys, as opposed to the dribbly, passy boys. Do you think
very technical terms there, Darbs?
I know. This is a highly technical soccer podcast. Do you guys think, like, is this, given that Diaz and Etienne are already on the roster, is this a lack of confidence in those guys? What are your feelings on a signing like this?
Well, I have no real thoughts about this guy other than what is to follow here, which is that speed is never something that I'm incredibly interested in because we've had a lot of super fast guys on our team before, and speed doesn't make you good at soccer.
Sure.
I don't think this guy is going to play. I can't imagine if he wasn't playing for DC that he's going to suddenly start for us. And Diaz is a ridiculous talent who could easily become one of, if not the best winger in the league, given a little bit more time. So I think it'd be idiotic to take any playing time away from him. Etienne seems pretty talented from what I'd seen before he joined the crew. I haven't really seen him play for us, given that I wasn't watching the MLS's back games. And then completely aside from the Boateng thing, I'm kind of annoyed that we decided to drop a homegrown central defender in Alex Granale, only to go and then sign this guy as his replacement, who we then proceeded to never use once and now are just getting rid of. And we got literally nothing for Alex, and he was a homegrown. Like, that just kind of annoys the shit out of me that we did that. Especially when we're now also apparently going and getting another center back in the next guy you're going to talk about, who's also similarly aged to Alex. And I don't know. Just meanwhile, Alex is like tearing it up in USL, starting center back for Birmingham. They're one of the best teams in the league. It's just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So actually, yeah, that ties in well to the next person, Grant Lillard, who is coming from Inter Fort Lauderdale FC in exchange for a third-round Super Draft pick next year. Center back, 24 years old, former homegrown, doesn't really have much in the way of MLS playing time at all. So you're right. That's a very like-for-like kind of exchange with Kernali. I hadn't really thought about that. But even down to, I think he's like 6'4", so tall guy.
Yeah. And I mean, you know what? This guy can't be that good because you know what a third-round Super Draft pick is worth?
Jack shit.
Yeah, a pile of dog turds. That's what that's worth. So this kid can't be super good. Otherwise, Miami would have wanted something better for him, or wouldn't have gotten rid of him at all. So is he now? You had former homegrown here. Does that mean he was a former homegrown for us, or a former homegrown for Miami? I don't know how that works with a new
homegrown
team.
for the Fire. He came in with the Fire in 2008. So, or excuse me, 2018, not 2008. But over the course of 2018, 2019, he appeared in a dozen games for Chicago, 768 minutes of playing time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's barely seen the field.
Yeah, so since 2018, he's made 12 appearances, it looks like.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
obviously a real talent there.
So how did Miami get him? They didn't pick him in the expansion draft, did they?
I am looking at it right now. It says that he was traded to Inter in exchange for $75,000 of GAM.
Yeah.
So Inter bought him for $75K from Chicago. Or actually, he wasn't even at Chicago at that point. It looks like he was on loan at that point to Lansing Ignite FC, which looks like it plays in USL League One. So not even the top tier of USL. So yeah, this kid's. You cannot make the argument to me that this kid is better than Alex Kernali. Like, not buying it. Sorry.
Yeah, as a comparison, Alex in 3 seasons with the Crew had 34 appearances, over 2,000 minutes played. So,
yeah, and like I said, right now, Birmingham is leading their group in USL play by almost 10 points. They're third in the league overall. He's been starting for them. I know he scored at least 1 goal. Like, why? Like, that kid's coming back to MLS sometime soon to play for an MLS team. So I don't know why we don't have him, but it's apparently more important that we get this dude.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing this guy has going as essentially your fourth option at center back is he's cheaper than Axel Soberg. He's only his salary's like $90,000, so he's cheap. But yeah, he is a physical. He's a body on the roster. He fills a spot, but I don't anticipate him seeing much in the way of playing time.
I think if he's seeing playing time, we should be very worried.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because that's when you're scouring the world for anybody else at that point to get on the roster too.
Yeah.
All right. So the third guy who got signed is Fatai Alashe, who comes to us from the Fuss Lads in exchange for a second round super draft pick next year. Or if he meets certain performance conditions, he instead becomes $50,000 in GAM. He's a defensive midfielder. He was a 2-year starter for San Jose a couple of years ago. Hasn't really played much since then. So again, you're talking a depth pick kind of guy. But I'm kind of curious in this context what you guys think. Our backup defensive midfielders are two very young homegrowns in Aiden Morris and Sebastian Berhalter, both of whom have played and both of whom have seemed to do pretty well in their time on the field. Is this any sort of statement on Porter's part?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of this signing. This was probably the one that, well, I guess I wouldn't say that it confused me the most, but it definitely confused me maybe as much as signing the guy that you guys just talked about. I really liked the way that Morris and Berhalter played in the tournament, and I think with time and experience, they could both be like really, really freaking good. So I'm not sure why we're bringing in somebody. Like, I can't imagine that you're bringing him in to back them up. So why are we bringing in somebody else to go ahead of them rather than giving them the experience they need? I don't understand this one at all.
And John, I know you didn't get a chance to see either of Morris or Berhalter play, but as Brett mentioned, they got some decent minutes due to rotation, and both of them seemed pretty solid in what I saw.
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about Berhalter, but I do know that Aiden Morris was supposed to be one of the hottest young baby boys coming into the game. So the fact that he seems to be considered fourth at that position after the obvious two starters of Nagbe and Artur, and then also I think Berhalter has gotten more minutes thus far. I think he should be the one that's most worried, but I think honestly we as fans should be most worried because these are the kinds of kids that are supposed to be the future of this team. And it even goes back to what I was saying about Crognali with, like, why did we get rid of him if we were just going to go and get, like, what is essentially a clone of him? I just don't understand. I mean, I do kind of understand because I think that Caleb Porter is not – I said it before we even, like, had him confirmed as a coach, but I still don't know if Caleb Porter is any good as a coach. He didn't have a great record at Portland, and he seems, with his player acquisitions, to be very much the kind of guy who's like, I'm wanting to build a team that can win right now, and I don't particularly give much of a fuck about tomorrow. And that's kind of what this kind of stuff seems to suggest to me. I mean, I don't know why we would want anyone from Cincinnati. That team has been one of the hottest shit shows in this league's entire history. So I don't care what the guy costs. Again, this is a second round super draft pick. That's another thing that's worth a pile of dog shit. So I don't get what the point of picking these guys up. I guess you just are trying to fill out your roster. I don't know. I would hope that none of these three that we were talking about tonight play. I would certainly hope that none of them play over the guys who have already been on the roster that we've mentioned. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and this is a guy who had 11 appearances. He could only manage to get on the field 11 times for last year's Cincinnati team, which was an epically bad team.
Yeah, historically awful.
If you can't get on the field for them last year, you don't belong on a field. I that's probably overstating. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's a perfectly fine professional, but that doesn't really inspire confidence in me. If you can't see the field for a bad team.
Yeah, I'm really starting to wonder what the purpose of these moves were, especially given that we know there's no Open Cup happening this year. Why the desperation to make so many moves that seem so irrelevant to the roster, to the starting roster, and even the substitute roster? Why try to make so many moves so quickly right after the window opens? I just don't really get it. Like, that there's going to be a very limited amount of games to be playing dudes in, so there's no rush to fill in slots like these that are, the last 8 to 10 slots on the roster. It's just weird. I don't know. I'd love to know a bit more about who's making decisions like this as well. Given that Steve Lyons is now running like the business side of things, that leaves Bezbachenko, Porter, and Onstad all like with their hands in the cookie jar here as far as like how pieces of this roster are being scouted and signed and stuff. And I just want to know like what's the hierarchy there and who's like makes final calls on things and whatnot.
I do think in the press release, I think Porter really gave a lot of credit to Onstad for these moves. Of course they all have like quotes in these releases. But I think it was maybe it was the third acquisition. I think Porter specifically said that Pat Onstad had a lot to do in this process. If he's the guy, one thing I can say, these are all MLS guys. They're all in the league, and I think part of the rationale was getting people for whom there wouldn't be much of a transition. And assuming that phase 2 would have the same kind of bullshitty condensed schedule that we're seeing in phase 1, or at least something close to it, even if it's a short season, maybe they're just trying to get enough bodies that they can rotate and not get people hurt or exhausted or too beat up. I have no idea how contracts work in this weird and fucked up season. Maybe they're getting guys pretty cheap. So I could see it from that perspective. I don't know if that's what they're doing. I may be giving them too much credit, but
I think that's a good point that I hadn't considered, and I just did some quick math on it. If what you're saying is correct, that there's going to be 12 additional games after this first phase, then our last phase 1 game is on September 12th, which is a Saturday. So assuming that everything that you've said is true, that means 12 more games would mean that 2 games a week puts us at the final week being 2, 4, 6, 8. The last game would probably be sometime around the 24th of October, which is pretty late. I don't remember what the last date of regular seasons typically is, but I don't think it's that late.
So one thing we should consider is, I don't know if the same rules apply from the tournament, or if they get to keep doing the 5 substitute thing. Because that could also play into it.
I haven't heard. I knew that they were doing that for the tournament, but I haven't heard anything about that as far as this return to a regular season.
I mean, I haven't either, but I know that other leagues like the Bundesliga and Premier League were also doing the 5 subs. So I would assume that carries through, in which case, again, it would be in a team's best interest to go ahead and take advantage of that.
Yeah, that will be interesting too. I don't know. It's a very unique situation. I don't know if there's necessarily any right or wrong way to be approaching it, but I'll be curious to see how that plays out. Because then we do know, don't we know for certain that 18 teams are making the quote unquote playoffs, whatever that structure ends up being?
Yes,
which is
correct.
An insane amount of fucking teams.
Right. So it's basically all but what? 5 teams? Wait, there's 26 teams right now.
It would be all
So,
but
all but
8
8.
teams. Yeah, it's 2/3. It's
So-
more than 2/3 of the league will make the playoffs.
So presumably you go the top 9 teams in each conference.
I would assume. I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's just going to be a shit show, and the season's going to have an asterisk anyway. So
Yeah, it's
who
weird.
knows? Yeah. Brent, do you have any further thoughts on the new signings?
Nah, we pretty much covered everything, I think.
Okay.
I think they've all got they've all got the tag on them that I feel like there are on many players that come through this league, and that they'll never play. We'll never hear about them until it's time for them to be traded or sold to some other team, and their replacements will come in.
Right. Yeah. In 6 months, you'll hear something about them being traded for $50,000 in GAM.
Yeah, and then in NFL, these are what are called. These guys are called practice team guys.
Right. All right. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about team-wise is the injury updates, or more accurately, the lack thereof. So both Aloy Room and Yunus Mokhtar got injured pretty decently during the tournament. And currently, there's no official update from the team on either of them. They're being evaluated to play on Thursday. Mokhtar's not even on the official injury report at all, despite being evaluated. He had some sort of muscle injury to his leg. And Room has, I think it was a hamstring injury. He is listed as questionable on the injury report. But basically, Porter has just sort of shrugged his shoulders. And given that it's now been 3 weeks since the team has played at all, it seems like a long time to not have any better sort of updates for the world. And this is something that carried through in the tournament. In the tournament, we got basically no information about any sort of injuries, and I think they blended it into, well, we can't tell people if they're, if it's a COVID reason that they're not in the 18 or if it's something else. But those are 2 pretty important pieces for the team, and it would be nice for the fans to know what's going on.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to respond, but if you had something more to say. I was just going to say, yeah, that is so weird. I am looking at the MLS injury report, which says it was updated today, and both those guys are on there, but they're the only guys in the entire list of all players on all teams that don't have a designation next to them of out or questionable.
They must have updated today. Oh yeah, you said they did.
So they're both on it, but they did not. It does not say whether they're out or questionable. It just has their names and what their supposed injury is. Yeah, they're the only 2 players on the entire sheet.
Holy shit, you're right. I'm scrolling through right now. Every other player from every other team says out or questionable.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of teams with none, but with nobody on there at all. But otherwise it's a very odd situation. I think that it's probably beyond time for fans to start demanding information. I mean, it's okay to keep. I think there's a line where it's okay to keep stuff kind of like that under wraps, but then. You have to have some sort of transparency with this stuff. Like, I mean, these are these are big players for the team, and fans want to know what's going on. And I think that's something that they should have a right to, is some sort of updates. Like the fact that they're not even listed on here as out or questionable is super suspicious.
Yeah,
I would suggest you tweet at the team and ask, and maybe email your ticket reps, say, hey, I want to know what's going on here. Like, tell me what's going on. This is unacceptable. Like weeks of silence is not okay.
Yeah, well, and there's a reason that leagues have an injury report. It's to provide transparency and fairness to the game itself as well.
Right.
And if you think about like the NFL, if Bill Belichick didn't have to release an injury report, know he fucking wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like as it is, he games the shit out of their injury report to conceal as much information as possible. I mean, this is something that if teams are going to do, they should all do and do equally and fairly.
Yeah. I don't know. It's suspicious. Brent?
Yeah, I also think about like the state of sports betting in this country and how it's like becoming legal in more places. The league has even talked about like the potential of partnering with like, what is it, Sky Bet or one of those like fantasy type deal. I don't know. But either way, like as this becomes more and more popular, if the league wants to take advantage of that because it's going to be a massive source of added revenue, then they better learn how to be more transparent with their information, because that will not be okay when people are putting money on the line for their games.
Yeah. If you go and look at the schedule on the top of the MLS website, in every game it has the betting lines right next to the team names. That's a great point. Like this is something that the league is embracing. Yeah. Right now I don't do betting, so I don't know what this means, but it's like Columbus minus 125, Chicago plus 360. Whatever the fuck that means, I know that's a betting thing. So how do you bet if you don't know whether the Crew starting keeper is going to be playing?
Yeah, and even for less serious reasons. I mean, like they're constantly like pushing and pumping their fucking fantasy games and shit.
God,
like, how do you expect people to play fantasy when they don't know if their potential starting players are going to be injured or not? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I'm so sick and tired of like the Bush League bullshit when it comes to MLS stuff, and this just seems like more of it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, MLS, do better. Columbus Crew, do better. We want to know what's going on with our players. Yeah. So, now that we've talked a bunch of soccer bullshit, which feels weird because, I mean, for one thing, we just haven't had any soccer things to talk about in 3 weeks. And also, this podcast does not talk about soccer. We are on to our Crew Superlatives question of the day. This one, ladies and gentlemen, comes to us from none other than the pride and joy of Muskogee, Oklahoma, one Brent Miller. Would you like to tell us what this week's question is?
I'd be honored, Drabs. Thanks for asking. All right, guys, this week our Crew Superlative is if you had to pick a Crew player to be your boss at whatever your day job is, which player would you pick and why?
Do you want to answer your own question first, or would you prefer not?
Why would I answer my own question first, Drabs? I just asked you.
I'll go first. It's fine.
My God, 3 weeks of not doing a podcast and Brent grows a fucking spine all of a sudden. Go back in your bucket, Brent.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'll go first. This seems like it's a pretty obvious and easy and straightforward answer to me, but maybe not. Maybe everybody.
Josh Williams is not allowed to be your answer.
It's not going to be my answer, but I don't see why it's not allowed to be, but it's not going to be anyways. No, my answer is very obviously Pedro Santos, because we would spend all day, every day at work laying down on the ground, taking naps and stuff.
Oh, you love to see it.
Yeah, we'd never have to do anything. Just get paid to nap and lay on the floor. Sounds great.
All right.
Drabs, you want to go next?
Yeah, I guess I will. I'm sitting here. I'm scrolling through. I'm trying to think of what's the best answer here. My answer is going to be Fernando Adi, because anytime he ever tries to give me shit, I'll just cough and say DUI. And yeah, then...
He was going to be my runner-up because I was going to say we'd just spend all day drinking on the job.
I think he's more of an after-hours drinker, as it turns out. You know, if you want to get drunk at 1 a.m. and go speeding around, he's your guy.
But you've got to imagine, if he's okay with drunk driving, then surely he's okay with drunk working.
That's true, and that would also explain much of his performance on the field for Columbus so far this season.
There you go. See, maybe he's just hammering off his ass.
All right, Brent, what you got?
It's kind of fucked up, but also I can't say that it's not fair. I think I'm going to go with Jossie Zardes. The dude's just, like, way too nice for his own good. So, like, if you make a mistake at work, I just can't imagine him, like, yelling at anybody. So I think he would be, like, a really easy person to get along with.
So what I'm hearing is you think he sounds like the kind of boss you can just walk all over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Plus, you could just, like, claim family emergencies, and he'd be like, I have 37 kids. I completely understand. Go ahead.
I can see it now. Him coming up to Brent, say, listen, Brent, you haven't been licking your quota of masks. And then Brent's going to give him some sob story, and he's going to feel bad for Brent, and he's going to lick Brent's masks for him.
Oh.
Well, he would also only ever be at work for, like, 1 week out of the year because he'd be on paternity leave the rest of the time.
Doesn't he only have, like, 2 kids?
I think he is on his way to the 4th.
I was going to say, I think he has 3 and 1 on the way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a couple too many.
According to Wikipedia, he has 3 kids, but I'm 99% sure his wife is pregnant because I know some people have indicated that, like, if the league decides to have an opt-out clause, he could potentially be somebody who has a concern, rightfully, with, a sizable family and a brand new kid on the way.
I just checked his Instagram, and there is an adorable picture of his wife and their 3 kids all touching his wife's pregnant belly. So, yes.
Ah, there you go.
It says, that what you just said actually is a great point. It says, this was 3 weeks ago on July 27th, so they must be due soon because it says being 8 months pregnant and a high-risk pregnancy. So, yeah, he would definitely be someone who I think would be opting out if need be.
And I totally wouldn't second guess it, but also that would fuck our team.
Yeah, that would suck. But I would 100% understand, and I would, if the need arose, I would actively encourage him to do.
Yeah,
that.
I think any player that wants to opt out of this season is totally within their rights, and I would not second guess them at all. All right. Well, there you go. So you out there in Twitter land, if you have any thoughts about what player you think would make the best boss, go ahead and send a tweet our way, and maybe we'll share good ones if you have good ones. And if you don't have good ones, go to hell. All right.
Sounds like Drab's just signed himself up for a lot of work because I know neither John nor I will be sharing those tweets.
That's what, you know what? I've been holding down the ACES Twitter account. I think John did something earlier today, though, didn't you?
I retweeted my Moon joke about Matt.
Oh, that's right. You retweeted yourself. You were that guy.
It was good. I spent a lot of time on it.
All right. Well, so it's been 3 weeks without soccer, so this is obviously the perfect time to have us all award some man balls. Brent, you've had 3 weeks to think about this, so I'm going to let you go first this time. Who would you like to award your man balls to?
I'll pass this one off to John Zidar.
Oh, God damn it. I hate you. All right, John?
I'll go ahead and pass this one right back to Brent.
Thanks, John. I'll go ahead and pass this one off to Darby Snarfus.
Fuck.
I do have man balls if you'd like me to go first.
Yes, please
All
do.
Right,
so
I'll go so that Drabby doesn't whine.
No, Brent, you don't get to go now.
No, Brent, now I'm going first. You had your chance, okay?
Yeah, you had your chance. You had 2 chances,
Passed it off
Brent.
Twice, okay?
My first man ball is going to go out to John Zidar for finally getting back on the show.
Oh, all right, we can do this. He can go ahead and go. That's fine. That sounds great.
Here, wait.
Who was it again? Say it one more time, Brent.
I believe it was going to John
Brent
Zidar.
just got muted. The world will never know what he's saying right now. John, do you want to go ahead and give your man ball?
Hey, wait a minute. I'm taking back that power from you. Hold on a second.
No! I've loved it so much.
God damn it.
All right, hang on.
All right.
There, he's unmuted again. Brent, all right, give your man ball. Jesus, come on.
All right. I'm going to start over since Drabby so rudely interrupted me.
I know, I killed your flow, didn't I?
First man ball is going to go to John Sidar for getting his ass back on the show. Appreciate it. I was tired of constantly having to talk about horses to pull Drabs' attention back in to the show.
God, I hate you.
It was getting real exhausting.
I hate you.
My second man ball, I guess, will go to...
Hate.
Oh, geez. You know what?
Hate.
Let's just go ahead and give one to...
Hate.
Steve Clark. Let's give one to Steve Clark for getting over whatever mental block he had related to certain past championship games that may or may not have ever occurred, and finally being able to win a trophy. I guess congrats, buddy.
It's too bad it's a trophy nobody gives a fuck about.
Yeah, all Steve Clark does is win big games for Portland, as it turns out.
So they were the ones that won that tournament then?
Yeah.
I literally have no idea. Who'd they play? I don't even know that.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't know who they actually played.
Who?
I stopped watching once the Crew lost. I think so. Let me see. MLS is
Wasn't
back
it
tournament.
Orlando?
Oh fuck. Yeah, probably. Who knows? Let's see. Yeah, they beat Orlando 2-1.
Oh man, you'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I'm always all about Orlando taking the L.
I remember that because Justin Meram tweeted out some laughing emojis immediately after the game ended.
Yeah, he did.
That's the kind of petty I can get behind. All right. Shall I go first or shall I go next?
Sure, go for it.
All right. Having watched exactly zero soccer in the past 5 months, I am excited to present both of my man balls to the Cronali brothers, Alex and Eli. Eli has made Team of the Week this week, and both of them have been starting and killing it for Birmingham down in Alabama. So props to those guys, and I hope they keep on with their winning ways. And I don't think I'll ever forgive Caleb Porter for not signing the first brother duo in team history and letting us enjoy that fun stuff.
Amen to that. All right. My man balls, I'm going to give one to the Stank Lord himself, Andy Stanky, and the other one to Charles Campinas No.
Double boo.
Both of them were gracious enough to hop on our garbage podcast to help out during the stupid bubble tournament. We appreciate you wasting your time coming and talking with us. This is the last time I will ever give either of you credit for anything ever again, so please enjoy it.
Drebs, you say that like you thank them for coming on as if it wasn't like a goddamn treat for them to come on and talk to me. I think you're just really underselling the value of being on ACES Radio.
I would like to thank them both for putting up with your bullshit for like an hour and a half. You know, we finally got you sent away. Brent, you have no idea how hard the Crew fan base worked to get you that job in Oklahoma. Like, seriously, there were favors being cashed in. I believe there was some oral sex involved. People did unspeakable things to get you out of the state on a long-term contract. And those two lads played a significant role. I won't say which one engaged in the oral favors, but at least one of them definitely did.
Like when a pandemic hits, you've got to get as far away from the nearest dirty bucket as you can. So I completely understand.
Yeah, Ohio basically put all of its coronavirus in your bucket and then sent you away.
Well, you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that because doing pretty well down here. So you can thank them both for me.
I literally just did.
No, Drebs, you thank them for yourself. Now I'm saying you can thank them for me.
John, I would like to go ahead and take away every man ball Brent Miller has ever received in the history of this podcast.
Yeah, I'm not going to allow that. That was pretty funny.
Okay. Damn it. Fine. All right. So, should we talk about these games that are coming up then, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's kind of all we got left to do, so let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, so in this weird phase 1, we've got 2 games coming up within the next 5 days, I think it is. Tomorrow, the crew will be at home taking on the formerly Bridgeview, now actually Chicago Fire. Chicago was an absolute shit show in the tournament. While they did manage to beat Seattle 2-1, they then dropped a pair of 2-0 games, one to San Jose, one to Vancouver. They finished 4th in their group. They didn't advance. They sucked. They were basically Chicago. They don't have any new signings in this transfer window. And Bobby Shuttleworth is now their number 1 keeper because their starter had ACL surgery not long ago. That's not a great recipe. All of those things I said right there. Oh, they're also currently 12th in the East at 1-3-1, which puts them, a bit outside even the bullshitty expanded playoff race at this point. And let's be honest, it's not actually too soon to start thinking about the playoff race, given a short season. Brent, do you have any thoughts coming into this game?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered how shitty Chicago is. So this should be, given how good our roster actually is and how well we played in the group stage of the tournament, this should be a relatively easy win. But am I mistaken, or wasn't it Shuttleworth that was playing keeper for DC? It was like a one-off game a couple seasons ago when they still weren't in their new stadium yet, and he actually somehow managed to shut the crew down. Am I thinking of somebody else?
I would refuse to believe that was a thing that ever happened, and furthermore, how dare you?
Why would you expect me to remember a random game of one of the worst players in league history from years ago?
Well, it was against our team, John, and it was in, I want to say the place where Army plays their football games, or maybe it was Navy. It was probably Navy. But I'm pretty sure it was Shuttleworth who played that game and actually did really well.
Okay, so are you saying that you are concerned that they have a chance against us because Bobby Shuttleworth played one game really well years ago?
I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying somehow this dude seems to have a recipe for playing well against the crew.
That's one game is not a recipe, Brent. Come on. What the hell is that? And yes, DC did win 1-0 over the crew in Annapolis in 2018.
Other one-ingredient recipes Brent loves: white rice, over easy eggs, a cup of water.
I mean, all of those things sound pretty good, John.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, if that's what you had to pick from, you wouldn't choose those.
I mean, he probably would. He's in the Morgan Hughes #rest school of thought when it comes to flavor.
Whoa, no, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not do that. That's too far.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It may not be far enough, honestly.
Yeah. I think it definitely did not go far enough. Let's see.
Which is something Brent hears a lot in the bedroom.
Okay, so Shuttleworth, let's find games where he actually played. I'm having to scroll past a lot of games.
Oh my gosh, let's not honor this hot take from Brent by looking up stats about him.
Let's see. He lost against us for Minnesota. Unused sub again. Unused sub again. He lost for New England against us.
Drebs, nobody cares about those games. Was he or
Tied
was he
against
not
New
the
England.
GK in that game at Annapolis with DC?
Probably. Let's see. 2018, is that what I said?
Yes.
I actually don't. I think you're wrong, Brent. In 2018, he was with Minnesota.
Hey, Brent, guess what? Bobby Shuttleworth's never been on DC United.
All right. Who was the GK in that game?
That was probably Steve Clark the first time he beat us that season before he got
Yeah.
traded to Portland
I
and
think
beat
that's
us
what
the
you-
second
Yeah,
time.
yeah. You know
I think
what?
that's
That-
what you're thinking of.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah, because that was that year he did that. He beat us twice with two different teams, which is like a league first or whatever.
Right. John, I would like to once again ask that all man balls associated with Brent Miller be removed.
Can we
Drebs,
talk about
you know
how
we have a rule that says that you cannot take man balls that you have given away from people, and considering that the majority of mine have been given by you, you're not going to be able to do that.
Bobby Shuttleworth I just want to acknowledge this. Before he came to MLS, he played on a team called the Kalamazoo Outrage, which is also like a way you could describe his entire career.
Yeah, that's pretty on brand for him, actually. All right. Do you have any other thoughts about the game, John, other than the fact that Bobby Shuttleworth is a piece of shit?
I do not. I would hope that we would win this game, if only because it's against the Fire, but also because it's literally like the best team in the league versus one of the worst teams in the league, which ironically is also how you can describe the next game we're going to talk about.
Right. Yeah, it's a home game. It's the first home game in a long-ass time, and even without fans, I hope that's a good motivator for the team. I'm guessing this game is going to have a lot of rust because, both teams haven't played an actual game in several weeks now. But this feels like it should be pretty easy for the Crew. All right, let's talk about the second game then. That would be, I think it's Sunday.
It's Monday.
Monday, sorry. Yes, Monday against NYCFC, which... Is that one I think that's an away game, isn't it? Or
that is an away game. They're playing that at Red Bull.
Yes. So, yeah, NYCFC is not allowed to play in Yankee Stadium currently because of the Yankees. They're basically not sharing their stadium while the pandemic is going on. So now we know...
That's right. Stay the fuck out of my stadium.
Right. Yeah, now we know who Big Brother and Little Brother are in that stadium.
Oh, yeah, like we didn't know
never
before.
A question.
That's true. Yes, so NYCFC is 13th in the East at 1-4-0, technically lower in the standings than Chicago even. They had a similar record in the group stage of the tournament. They lost to Philly, they lost to Orlando, and then they beat Inter Miami 1-0. Way to go! You beat the winless team 1-0.
They beat actually one of only two teams that are worse than them, and the only team in the league that still has 0 points.
Right.
They have lost all 5 of their games.
Yeah, and so they lost 1-0 to Philly. They lost 3-1 to Orlando. So they had a -2 goal differential, 1 win and 2 losses in the tournament. And they advanced as a wild card in their group. They then beat Toronto in the round of 16, 3-1, and then lost to eventual champion Portland in the round of 8, also by a score of 3-1. And they have no signings either. What do you think about this game, John? Other than the fact the team is terrible. Was that pretty much it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thoughts as the Chicago one. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about the Crew or this team really, because like I said, and everyone knows, I'm basing all of my commentary off of the only 2 games I've seen this year, which were Crew games from March. But realistically, we are the best team in the league. We've scored. We're a little low on the goal scoring side. When it comes to the top teams in the league, we're a few goals behind the other big players, but we've only given up 1 goal across all games that count, 2 goals if you count the knockout game, which is far and away the best goals allowed in the league. So I think this is a really good and really favorable schedule for us moving forward. And I don't want to get too far ahead of us here, but knowing that we play Chicago at least one other time in this initial phase of games, and also Cincinnati twice, I really think that it would be unacceptable for the Crew to do anything other than take like 15 points from these 6 games. I mean, Philly is the only challenge of these 6 games, and spanning 4 opponents here.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Especially given that it feels like home field advantage won't be as much of a thing as I'm guessing it won't be as much of a thing in these games without fans, without that atmosphere, which obviously makes a huge difference in games. NYCFC signed their head coach on January 6th of this year. So that's about the worst possible time I could think of for a team to be bringing in a new coach, other than the brain trust in Atlanta, who decided to bring in a coach after the MLS's back tournament. I don't think NYCFC has much of an identity yet with the new coach. Their roster isn't, certainly not the world beaters that they have been in years past. I feel pretty good about this one, even going on the road. Any sort of faux home field advantage they might have is now lost because they're playing in Jersey. I do feel good about both of these 2 games. I think even with some rust, I think the Crew can definitely walk away with 6 points pretty easily. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similarly to John. Like, I don't have a lot to comment on, but the schedule here in Phase 1 certainly seems like it should be made for this team to just rack up a bunch of points and keep themselves potentially in Shield contention. Like, it would be unacceptable to not take, I'm going to say, at least 14 points out of this phase.
14 out of the 6 games. So let's see.
So that's 18. There's 18 points
4
up
wins,
for
2
grabs.
ties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with even, especially when you consider I know that like we said, there's not going to be that fan factor, but the one hard game against Philly is a home game, which means that Philly's going to have the extra contention of the travel. I don't know what the travel plans are for these types of games. I don't know if it's the kind of situation where they're needing to like come into the city, play the game, and immediately leave, or what. But even if it's a normal handling of it, where they come in, say, the day before and they leave the day after, that's still a whole mess of additional things that they'll have to contend with that we won't. So we've got even that going for us in regards to the hardest game of this 6-game series.
Yeah, and so it looks like if just as far as Philly goes, they have a pretty similar, like, their games are scheduled basically all the same time as us. So I do think by that 3rd game, heavy legs will probably be more of an issue, and maybe that's where some of those new signings for some depth and rotation will come in handy then.
Yeah, just for a sense, if we were to take 15 points from these 6 games, which would be 5 wins and 1 loss, that would put us at 28 points, and then there would only be 36 additional points on the table with the 12 games in Phase 2. So I don't know what the math is there, but that feels like we'd be in a pretty good position as far as like basically having already locked up a playoff spot.
You're saying if we take all 18, is that what you said?
Nah, I mean, even if we took just 15.
15.
Yeah, if we took all 18,
points.
that would put us at 31 points, which is only 4 points shy of the full amount of points that would be remaining from the 12 Phase 2 games. So basically, that would be half the season as a whole will be over upon the conclusion of Phase 1, basically. And if we take 15 points, that'll put us at 9 wins, a loss, 1 loss, and 1 tie. I mean, that's a pretty damn good record going into the Phase 2 and the second half of the season. So,
and that also puts you at about 2.5 points per game halfway through the season, and that's a nice cushion. I mean, certainly 2.5 points per game is going to, if you can ever sustain that kind of pace, you're obviously going to be the runaway supporter shield winner.
Yeah, I mean, we're at 2.6 currently. So
so ironically, I think 15 points out of 18 is even a little bit of a step down from what we have so far.
Yeah,
which is pretty incredible if you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, 15 is what I would expect. It's what I would aspire to. I wouldn't be mad if we came away with as low as 13, but I really think that you can only give up so many in this period against these opponents, not knowing what we're going to face in the future.
Sure, absolutely. All right, well, let's talk about some score predictions then. So let's swing back to the Fire game first. Brent, what do you have as far as the score goes?
I'll say 3-0 Crew.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. So you think just they come out guns blazing, offensive juggernaut, chainsaw for a penis?
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Chainsaw for a penis.
All right. What do you think, John? Is that an accurate prediction, or is Brent being too Sunshine Brigade?
No, I would love to line my chainsaw dick right up next to his, because I am going to say the exact same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
As our resident artist, can you please draw a picture of the two of you with chainsaw dicks standing next to each other, like comparing sizes?
Yeah, mine's a functioning working chainsaw, and Brent's is a Fisher-Price one.
Oh, I really hate to hear that. All right. I think you guys are a little too optimistic. I think after 3 weeks off, it's going to take some time to get back up to speed again. I'm going to say 1-0 Crew in the first game. I think it's a win. I think it's a comfortable win where they never feel particularly threatened, but I don't think there's a lot of goals in that first game. So for the second game, NYCFC, Brent, back to you. How many chainsaw penises are you calling for in that game?
Damn, I think this one's a little bit harder for me to predict. I'll say that's a 2-1 Crew.
Okay. What about you, John? What do you think?
Man, it's been some time since I've done this show, and just as long since I've spoken with Brent, but him and I are really in sync here. I'm also going to call 2-1 Crew for this game.
Oh, my God. Now that I think about it, Brent really was an adequate replacement for you. If you're just going to keep saying the same things over and over again, I'm not sure why we're paying you the big bucks that we're paying you.
Well, I'm prepared and ready to receive the big bucks whenever you're willing to dish them out, Darby. I wasn't aware I was getting those.
He did offer on the last show to just start giving out his money to people because he said he was tired of having so much.
Oh, well, that'd be great. I could totally use some of that then. Let's go.
No, that's definitely not a thing that I said. How dare you, Brent? How dare you? That being said, God damn it, I'm going to pick 2-1 also. I think the Crew.
Well, Darby, if you're just going to mimic what Brent says, I don't know why we're paying you the big bucks.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Actually, I quit. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Yeah, no, I mean, this time I can understand why you say that. I do think, NYCFC has enough talent that they get a goal on board, but that 1-4-1 record so far, that does say something. I know they managed to sneak past Toronto in the the knockout rounds. But I think they're a team that's still a couple months away from really finding their form. So I think the Crew can even handle them in Harrison.
Yeah, my feeling is that Chicago, basing this on the knowledge that I have from the previous season and what little bit I know of this year, I feel like Chicago is exactly who they're shown us to be, whereas New York is probably better than what they've presented so far. That's why I'm going with the way I'm going.
Yeah, like Chicago, I think they spent too much of their time rebranding and worrying about getting back into Soldier Field, and they forgot that they actually need to put a team together.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes that's how it goes, right? The focus isn't where it needs to be for sporting purposes.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, shit, I think we've run out of things to talk about here on this episode of ACES Radio. Do you guys have anything else you want to discuss? Brent, inevitably, in the time that John has been gone, every time I'm ready to wrap the show up, you're like, hey, what about this? So what did I forget this time?
I actually think that you have remembered to cover everything that we talked about pre-show.
Do we want to outline any little bit about what our plans are moving forward here? I'm returned full time. I'll say that for moving forward. What about you guys? Is there anything else we feel like we want to share?
Yeah, I think I think we're inclined to go back. Well, I guess I don't know if we brought this up with Brent, but I'm inclined to go back to the weekly schedule at least for the next couple of weeks. We'll release this episode, I think, maybe tomorrow early to get it out in front of the game so that we're not doing like we did in the tournament and, talking about a game after it's already been played. But yeah, go back to a weekly format for a while here on Thursdays because this week is the only conflict.
At least through the end of phase 1.
Yeah. And much as the league is going to be taking a pause, we'll see how things are going then at that point in case they do anything weird with the schedule. But we back, baby.
Yep, for sure. If people are on board and interested in hot takes again, we can certainly spin those up. That'll be a conversation we can have. But
yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, we can talk about hot takes. You son of a bitch. Also, if anybody out there wants to have something they want to talk about for a What's Your Kink segment, just talking about something you're interested in that you think other people might be into. Andy Stanky, of course, talked about his love of brewing beer. And Charles talked about his beard fetish that he's developed and how he touches his face incessantly and lovingly now that he's growing a big boy beard.
Well, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, it was the creepiest thing we've ever had on this show. And I say that...
Creepiest thing saved for the horse jokes, Drafts in his horses.
I say that fully acknowledging that Brent is a part of this podcast. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to send your kink stuff in to us, we can discuss it without you, or it's actually pretty easy to bring people on here. So we can certainly do it that way as well.
Yeah, our current online format for recording allows us pretty easily to get people in. All you have to have is a microphone and headphones and a computer or a phone.
Yep. Just install Discord and we'll have you up and running in no time.
Yeah, and if push comes to shove, we can connect your bucket to Brent's bucket via a really long piece of string, and you can send your kinks in that way. Isn't that right, Brent Miller?
Yeah, I was also going to add, you really don't even need to have a microphone.
Well, yeah, because Brent's audio has sounded like shit all season, so.
That's true. We've lowered the standards so far, it doesn't fucking matter. Just, yell out your window if you want, and probably one of our microphones will pick it up.
Did you get a different microphone, Brent? Because you sound better tonight than you have all year.
No, I just got a new phone.
That must be it. Okay.
That'll do it.
All right, great. Well, how have you guys been wrapping this shit up? I forgot how it goes.
We just sort of say, well, I guess here's the part where we say things in a whisper voice, and then we go back later and we lay music over the end.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
Yeah, you know.
Sounds divine.
Yeah.
Should I do that?
Let's do the thing where we all whisper after I say, and all Lord Guillermo's people said, I don't know where to whisper.
I want to give a third man ball to Brent's new phone. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Also, Tony Chani was underrated in his time with the crew.
Oh, fuck off!